Welcome to the We Hack Purple podcast, where each week we meet a different member of the information security industry to learn about their job, how they got there, their career progression, the things they needed to learn to get there, what the best parts and the worst parts are of those jobs. Does the job pay well? Do they like it? What types of aptitudes or personalities would be best suited for it? This is season 1 of the We Hack Purple podcast. I am Tanya, Janca. I am your host. This week we have Abhi Arora from Cloud Defense, the Chief Product Officer, who's going to tell us all about what that actually means. We haven't had one of those on the show yet before. This episode is sponsored by ThreadFix, which is powered by Denim Group. But I know what you're thinking. I want to meet Abhi too. Let's see him.
Hey guys.
Hi, Abhi.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for coming on the show. I am very happy to have you. For those that might not be aware, Abhi was scheduled to come on the show months ago. But if you recall, there was, hello, someone's here from Indiana, awesome. Someone else from Canada, nice. So Abhi was supposed to be on the show, and he lives in San Francisco, in California, in America, the United States. And not everyone knows where everything. I feel like everyone in America thinks that everyone knows where the things are, but we don't always know if we're from other places. And there were these huge wildfires that were really scary. And right before the show, Abhi was evacuated. And I'm really glad because look at him, all in one piece. It's awesome. But his colleague, his co-founder of their company, Cloud Defense, Anshu Abasnal, he was on instead, and that was a great show. So, yeah, and then we get to have you now. So I feel like, although obviously the wildfires were awesome, it worked out really well for the podcast. You're like, Tanya.
You got a better guess. But I think so many things have happened in the last 12 months, 14 months, that I had actually forgotten about the wildfires, believe it or not. I was like, oh my God, that had also happened, yes.
Yes.
It's crazy times.
Well, it is. And founding a startup is a lot of work. Do you want to tell everyone like your title and about your job?
Yes.
And about your company too?
Sure. So I'm Abhi Arora. I am Chief Product Officer of Cloud Defense. What is Cloud Defense? We are an application security company. We cover all the attack surfaces of an application with a single product that is easy to use for developers, for InfoSec, and for management. And my job is to make sure we are solving the customer's pain point, making sure that the product meets the customer's need, and also to communicate customer's pain point back to my team.
Awesome. We've had a bunch of chief technical officers on. What's the difference between a chief technical officer and a chief product officer? Because quite often when you see co-founders, there's the CEO and the CTO. And I honestly had just assumed you're the CTO. So can you tell me the difference?
Yes. So chief technical officer, I was a chief technical officer at one of my previous companies. And the role there was to make sure that the product that we're building is scalable, is secure, the team is happy. This totally different role there. Whereas with the product, my main focus is on the customer and making sure our strategy, our product vision, it meets the pain point of the customer. So whereas a chief technical officer would meet the team and take care of the team and take care of the technology, I am responsible for taking care of the customer. That's my main job.
That's kind of cool because, so I've read The Lean Startup and a lot of other startup books, and I bet that you could write one of them by now because this is not your first startup. But isn't solving a big problem that people are willing to pay for sort of like the whole thing? I'm kind of, now that you explain what a chief product officer is, I'm like, why don't we always have chief product officers at every company?
Right. And a lot of big enterprise companies have started to have a lot of product managers, product officers, and then in startups, usually the founders automatically become experts in the product, experts in the field, experts in that customer this pain point. And so me being a founder, that is also, I could just say I'm not a chief product officer, I'm a founder, and by default I have all of that responsibility also.
Yeah. There's a lot of those are big shoes that you wear every day. Can you tell us what a day is life in the like or what is it like to have a day in the life of a product officer?
Yeah, life is good. I would say I get to meet a lot of customers. So I spend most of my day trying to find customers, that have that pain point, or have in that realm of what we're building. And then I spend about 2 to 4 hours a day meeting them, understanding where they're coming from, what their pain points are, really digging deep into why they have that pain point, and then starting to think about the rest half of the day is thinking about what would solve that pain point, and then conveying that. I think lastly is like just having the communication ability to convey that to your team of why that customer is having this particular pain point and what can we do about helping the customer.
That I feel like it takes a special personality to be able to do that job. Do you know what types of personality traits would make someone good at this?
um, all of these personalities that I'm going to mention are learnable, so you don't have to have them off the bat, but things like empathy is really important, is really cool skill to have. I have been trying to learn that, just so that I can get in my customer's shoes, think about the problem like they are thinking, because I may not come from exactly their field or their area of expertise. So I just have to ask a lot of annoying questions to my customers, and just try to understand, where they are coming from. And the best, conversations with customers are where they speak more, they speak freely. So if you have the ability to get your customers to speak like friends to you and really talk about their pain points, that is another amazing skill to have here. Um,
Yeah.
and then lastly, just being able to convey those issues clearly to your team, since really I'm not building the product, I have to convey the pain point to my team so they can build an amazing product.
That's awesome. That's really good. Do you how can someone learn empathy? Like you're just like, "Oh, I'm learning empathy." How?
um, a lot of things are an iterative process. So with empathy, I think a good way to do that is to actually build a product, build anything, build maybe, go try to speak to the next 5 people you meet and ask them what are their pain points, and
Yeah.
see if you can find a pain point that you have some kind of skill or the ability to solve, and then try to build a team to solve that pain point. And that will give you all the skills you need to be able to listen to people, to be able to convince your team to do something. All of that will come by just building something, even something small.
I like that. Almost every episode so far, when I've asked what types of personality traits you need to do a job, almost every single person has said empathy. But then you're the first person that's given examples of how someone could try to learn it.
Right.
I got to ask tougher questions, like I am to you, Abhi. So there's some people watching, and I want to say hi to Kellen and Mateus, Amir, Professor Black Ops. Thank you, all of you, for attending, and everyone else who I didn't say. You can ask questions to Abhi. You can also click the thumbs up button and/or subscribe. And if you're listening to this later, I would love it for you to rate a review and say, hopefully, that this is your fave podcast, or at least give us 5 stars and say we're okay. I have like a little script of things I'm theoretically supposed to say, and I say them once every 5 podcasts. But I have more questions for you, Abhi.
Yeah. By the way, somebody
What ti-
doesn't know, Tanya is awesome. So you should just vote yes. Oh, that's my daughter in the background. I'm on a call. Can I come back later? Okay.
Oh, so
Are you done, please?
Yes. Let's edit this part out. Uh,
Yeah, someone was saying earlier that from your background that they can tell that you're probably a dad. Do
yes.
you feel so like this is totally off topic, but do you feel that working from home is kind of awesome that you can be like closer to your family? Or is it more like it's distracting because they're so fun?
I'm blessed with a really good daughter who doesn't bother me as much, except coming to help me. So it's not
Oh.
super distracting. So I have all the wins of working from home. I do miss hanging out with the team a lot. We have an
Yeah.
awesome team, so just not being able to see them and meet them, I think that's the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, I definitely hear you on that. Like it's because you want to build relationships with your team. Also, everyone in the audience is like, "Oh, it's so sweet that his daughter came in." Oh, oh. So I don't know. I think you're getting outvoted. They don't want you to cut it out.
Perfect. I'm okay with it.
Okay, so back on topic. What types of technical skills do you think someone would need in order to be a good chief product officer?
That's a really good question. So, like it depends on what kind of product you're building. So, if you're building a very technical product like the one we are building, it'll be very nice to have skills. You need to be to understand the customer. You need to be able to understand, the context they are in, the field they are in. Why are um, but I've seen product officers come from variety of backgrounds, and I've trained product officers from I've trained people who became product officers, and they came from like sales background, operations, finance background. So it's very possible that once you really know a certain field, that you're not specifically technical, but you can still understand and convey pain points and be able to work with your technical team to improve the product a lot, to really solve somebody's pain point. Really, that's what we're doing, is solving somebody's pain point. And
Yeah.
you don't necessarily need to be technical, but it helps a lot.
Okay. So I guess you really need to be able to understand the problem you're solving inside and out, but you don't necessarily need to be technically skilled enough to build the entire solution yourself.
I think that's a better way to put it. Yes.
I like to summarize things mostly to make sure I understand. The secret of hosting a podcast, Abby, is that you can invite on people you think are smart and then ask them questions and learn from them for free.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, Tanya is super smart. I am less smart, so I am the one learning here.
So I am one of the technical advisors at Abby's company, and that's how we met. And I was just like, this dude's awesome, and the feeling was mutual. And so yeah, we get to hang out sometimes, and it's really cool. There is a question.
Yes.
How do you measure success factors for a DevSecOps product? Delivering the right features on time or delivering something truly unique? Ooh.
That's a great question. So, from whenever you're building a product, you try to establish some key performance indicators of a product, and they change over time. So, when you very, 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 very small, you will have a different KPI. But when you're bigger, you will have different KPIs. And as you get bigger, the KPIs are driven a lot by sales backwards. So it's easy to sales speaks a lot about, if you're building the right product, you should be able to sell it, right? But when we're smaller, we have to make up some KPIs that
Yeah.
basically say that we're really solving customers' pain point. So um, our KPIs on our end for DevSecOps uh, you know, is the product, pain points that we have heard from customers, we have translated into KPIs. And one of the
Can you
KPIs
explain
is,
what Can you
yes,
explain what KPI is?
sure. So KPI is key performance indicator, and it's just a short term for exactly the question you had asked. I don't know who asked it.
How do you
Gaurav,
measure yourself? Gaurav asked it.
right?
Yeah.
And there are really good books about that. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm expert at that. But the way we are measuring our performance of our product is we are translating some key pain points that our customers have mentioned into performance indicators. And the pain points are, we in DevSecOps, people are not able to run their scans regularly, fast, and capture a lot of attack surfaces together. So for us, the
Yeah.
key performance indicators then turn out to be how fast are we running? Are we improving our performance every month, every release? um, and how much attack surface are we covering, right?
Yeah.
Every release, are we improving that coverage? And then are we making it ridiculously easy for customers to run the product? So
Can I add a key performance indicator I want to see? So I have been installing a tool that costs $150,000 for the past week. We've had 2 3 hour working sessions trying to install, and we've had many working sessions before. And they're like, oh, you have to like manually install the cert, you have to self sign it. I'm like, okay, but there's no instructions. And they're like, oh, do you install it in the agent or do you install it in the third party server? I'm like, I don't know. I'll install it on both. Okay, and it has just been hell. We're literally have spent so many hours trying to install this tool. And I'm like, with that number of hours for all the consultants and employees, I'm like, we'd probably buy a different tool. I did suggest yours, to be honest.
thank you.
I was like, yeah, I know some guys that made a tool. It costs like I don't know, like
Much
1/10
cheaper.
this much probably, or 1/8 this much, and also like it's not hell to install. So I would suggest adding how easy it is to install, that it's not total hell.
Yeah, and we're really proud. Like when we give customers demos, we are able to install the tool in like 3 to 5 seconds, and the customers are their mind is blown by like, oh, I can just go to your public documentation, run this command, and tool will be installed. It's we're
Yeah,
really happy with
that's
that.
what they said. They said that, yeah. They're like, just do this janky PowerShell script and then do this janky Bash script and then write some MS DOS. I'm like, excuse me, I'm writing MS DOS. And also, I have to have 3 different like actions within my pipeline just to run this one tool. Like, can't I just put one? Yeah, so it's like you have to like prop it all up and then like give it a massage and then tell it it's pretty and then it will run. It's ridiculous. I'm like, come on. Anyway, that's not the first commercial tool that's over $100,000 where I've had to do stuff like that. I don't want people. Sorry, I'm like on a soapbox now. We can't encourage people, Abby, to use security tools if we make it like impossible for them to use. Usability is important, and
That's
I know you
that's
agree.
that's exactly what we're working towards, is making DevSecOps so easy that there's no reason to not use it.
Yeah, oh, I like that idea. I like there's no excuse because it's so easy to do this. Well, it's so easy to find the vulnerabilities. We're
Yes.
not talking about fixing them.
Right.
Okay, so what if someone is listening and they're like, maybe one day I want to be a chief product officer? Is there training that, like, and if you don't know of one, that's okay. And like, just to be clear, We Hack Purple does not have training on that. But like, is there training that you did, or was there a specific job or work experience that you had that like led you up to this point?
Um, I think so. To be in the product field, whether you are a product manager or senior product manager, director of product or chief product officer, the responsibility is the same. You're responsible for certain piece of the product or the whole product. And the best way to learn that, I think, is not by taking any course, but like I said early, just build something, build with the team, something that where you're solving somebody's pain point. And you can learn that within your own company. You can, for example, like if I was working in a company today, I was not in product, I would reach out to I would try to study what our customers pain points are that we're not solving today, and see if I can think of some solutions. Then I would convince other people in my team or my management to help solve that pain point. And don't be discouraged. One of the other things that you have to learn in product is a lot of people will say no. Your management might say no. Customers might say no. You just have to learn and kind of be consistent and be iterative. So you have to improve on your idea. Understand why my manager is saying no, and not take it personally. Understand why the customer's pain. Maybe the customer pain point exists, but your solution is not perfect. It is not there yet. So how can you iterate on that solution to get it to a point where the customers, the management, etc., are buying into it? That's really the experience. That's really what you need to do to become to be a good product manager.
I like it.
There's no perfect training for it. Yeah.
So I love your answer. Someone has commented the community needs something easy. We still can't get the OWASP top 20 fix. And it's the OWASP top 10, but I love it, Professor Black Ops. So there's a follow-up question from is it Gaurav or Gaurav?
I think it's
Gaurav.
Gaurav Mukherjee.
Gaurav. Okay.
Yeah, I'm really bad at names, so Gaurav, I'm sorry if I mispronounced it.
So what are your thoughts on achieving security at Mach speed, and which phases of a DevSecOps cycle do you think are legit achievable through automation? I love the way he asked that, legit achievable.
I think so. What I have learned in the last couple of years is that when I started working on DevSecOps, I thought engineers didn't want to do security, but I learned very quickly that it's the opposite. That people want to write secure code, and they just don't have the right. It's just not easy enough for them. So that's why like we kind of building the tool that makes it very easy for people who are not even in security to quickly find vulnerabilities in any attack surface and fix it, or find it. And we also provide remediation steps. But really, the if you look at one level, if you pull back and look at it from a higher level, the issue is that people want to be able to find vulnerabilities. They want to be able to fix those vulnerabilities, and just by just by having something easy in their hand, that helps. But another thing that really helps is when they're not scanning a whole project of 10 million lines and fixing all the vulnerabilities at the end of a project, right? So I think everybody in DevSecOps understands shift left. And what we have seen and we encourage all of our customers to do is when try to scan smaller things, try to scan deltas, try to scan changes that are being made, and at one time have a developer fix smaller quantities of things. So scanning 7 files and finding 2 vulnerabilities and fixing them on the same day is much better than scanning 10 million lines of code and having 1,000 vulnerabilities and never being able to fix anything.
It's overwhelming, right?
It is
It's
overwhelming.
like crushing.
Right.
I ran a really big expensive security tool that I won't name on a product. So I consult for lots of companies here and there, and they're like, can you look at this with us? And so they had acquired a company, and their main app, when we scanned it, it had 43,000 vulnerabilities in one web app. And they're just like, is this tool broken? And so we went through and I was like, actually, SaaS tools are not usually this accurate, but this is like flaming. There was 0 input validation. There was 0 output encoding. All the SQL was inline. There was no parameterized queries.
Right.
Or it was a parameterized query, but they were passing a completely inline SQL statement to it. So it was just I was just like, oh my God. It's not a stored parameter if the stored parameter just executes with DB owner permissions, whatever you send it. That's not the point of doing. Yeah, you know that. Anyway, so yeah, I like this idea of like getting them to just test the changes. I like the idea of trying to get developers to give them tools, to give them help, but also so that they can just find a few things, fix those things earlier in the system development lifecycle. I like all the things you said, basically.
Thank you. I, I I actually have something to add. Can I say something a little
Of,
bit?
cour- of course.
Thank you. So one other thing that we saw was this is a pattern I've seen in, when you as a customer have a large project and maybe you were doing DevSecOps, maybe you weren't doing DevSecOps, but suddenly bringing a lot of change suddenly is hard. So what teams have done is are doing, trying not to name the customers, but large teams, what they're doing is the InfoSec team will start with policies that are kind of nice and lenient in the beginning, and then train the team on the process more than fixing 1,000 vulnerabilities immediately next month. Like, what, get used to the process, fix 10, 20, get used to the workflow, get used to the tooling, and set a monthly target of where do you want to go. You over time, if you can reduce the risk of your application in 6 to 9 months and your team is happy doing it, that's a huge win.
Yeah, and it seems more sustainable too.
Yeah.
Like you can't just crush the developers into the ground every time you get a tool. Oh, I really like that. So there are some questions, but first I want to take a quick second and thank our sponsor, ThreadFix, who make the most stupendous vulnerability management system this side of the galaxy. They have been our sponsor for a really long time. I want to thank them so much. We are about to start having new sponsors. They have been so supportive of us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But also I wanted to say that Alice and Bob Learn, that would be this book here, book discussions are still happening. And they're still free, and I'm still inviting lots of really smart friends to discuss each chapter with me. And they're every fourth Saturday. So it's not this Saturday, it's next Saturday. And I believe it's next Saturday. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong. There we go. It is May 15th, just like I said. So if you want to join us and talk about secure design, and you can join us either just by showing up at the She Hacks Purple YouTube channel at that exact day and time and just remembering, or better yet, get reminders. So go to aliceandboblearn.com and just sign up for free, and we will send you a calendar invite and invite you to things and let you know what's up. And so that is enough advertising from me. So I have good questions in the chat. So someone is saying, I am an old Oracle guy. I love packages and procedures, and you are talking my language. So that's not a question, but I like it. So we have a question now. What is the worst thing that you could do as a chief product officer?
You can do a lot of bad things, but I think if you are probably the worst thing you can do is not iterate on listening to your customers, not iterate on working with your team, not iterate on your product. If you think you have built the perfect product, you're wrong, because even perfect products can be improved. So just think of, like, what is the next iteration that I can help create that will help the customer. What is the next relationship I can build with the customer where they feel free to talk to me about their pain points. There's a lot of iterations that go into creating, the perfect products that you buy.
Can I add to this that insisting you're right when lots of customers say they don't like it, and that all those customers that you've talked to, all of them are wrong. I've seen it. I've seen startup founders where they're like, no, everyone's going to buy this $4,000 bracelet that tells them their mood or whatever it is that they've come up with that is like, it's like, no one's going to pay for that. And then they ask lots of people, and all the people are like, no, I'd never pay for that. And they're like, well, all of you are wrong. I feel like your look at using empathy and like trying to see things from the customer and just like active, constant listening seems like, gosh, it seems like a really good skill.
I'm still learning it and I'm still developing it. So yeah, it's again iterations. One day I'll be good at it and I'll claim that.
One day.
One day.
Okay, so it's time for the cheese question. So on the very first episode, I explained that I felt I'd made it as a software developer, and I was finally making lots of money when I went to the grocery store and I was trying to decide between two delicious looking types of cheese. And I realized I could just afford both. That I don't even have to think about it. I can get whatever I want at the grocery store. And I'm going to tell you something, Abby. Today I bought 3 types of cheese because that is where I am in my life. And so
just to throw a bone in that, I'm lactose intolerant. So
okay,
I'm
so no
just
cheese.
just kidding. Go for it.
So does being a startup founder pay well? Does being a chief product officer pay well? And how hard is it as a job? Because I suspect it's pretty hard.
Building a product sucks. Building a startup sucks even more. It's hard. It is. You will get a lot of no's, a lot of rejections, a lot of hurdles. So that's another skill that I didn't mention is you have to learn how to not take those personally and think about them as I think Anshu, my co-founder, likes to say is those are learnings. What did we learn today? Right? Some customer could say this absolutely is a terrible product. I will never use it. So we try not to take it personally. It hurts a little bit, but turn around and say, well, why don't you like it? What's wrong? What pain point? Maybe the pain point that we are addressing is wrong. If it does exist, our solution may be wrong. So life is tough in a startup. As a chief product officer, salary is good, especially if you work for a large company, and it pays almost as good as senior engineers. It's a good salary, but the risk is there because if you're not building a good product, all the risk is yours. It's your responsibility. So it's really good salary, but really big responsibility.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I was going to wear my Cloud Defense shirt today, and instead I wore a We Hack Purple hoodie, and I totally forgot I was planning to surprise you by wearing my Cloud Defense shirt. And then I was like, why isn't he wearing a Cloud Defense shirt?
I'm sorry.
And I'm like, we both suck.
My team is going to pummel me for not wearing my Cloud Defense.
I know, they'll be like, Tanya, we mailed you too. You should wear them. And then the one time I'm actually supposed to wear it instead of just in my garden, I forget. Oh, that's okay though. That's okay. Okay, so are there a lot of opportunities for someone to find a job similar to yours?
Yes. Every company is looking for somebody to lead their product initiatives. So there's a lot of jobs. They're pretty easy to find. And just search for product manager, senior product manager, director of product, whatever level you want to join at. And you'll find a lot of opportunities in your area.
Very cool. We have a question in the chat, so I'm going to read it out to you. One of the pain points that we encounter in application fuzzing at scale, so like lots and lots of places, is to hunt real-time bugs. What are your thoughts on solving such issues, or is there an approach that you would recommend which is actually achievable? Fuzzing at scale, that is a tough one.
So the product that we are building is more shift left, so it's pre-production. So I'm not an expert at this question. And Gaurav, I'm really sorry, I'm going to make a pass and say, since I'm not the expert, I'm going to pass on it. But I know one of the best product managers in your field at Runtime Security, and I'm happy to connect. If you can reach me at abhi@clouddefense.ai, I would love to connect you with him. He would have some amazing answers.
I feel like fuzzing at scale is quite complex because fuzzing is slow and has tons and tons and tons of false positives. And like you can set a fuzzer to go fuzz all the things, and you can do it really carefully so you don't break everything, but you're still going to result with tons of false positives. Like I think you still need a human to go look at the garbage that comes back. And Gaurav says, awesome, thank you, I will write you.
Thank you.
But yeah, fuzzing at scale is really hard. I agree. You know what would be better if we all just wrote really good input validation? Even better, what if we used the input validation from our framework and we had a modern updated framework and we just made sure that there were no inputs without like input
Update to
validation?
Rust. Update all your C applications to Rust.
I use Rust.
Yes.
Okay. I'm blushing. Okay, so what do you like best about your... Actually, this is the tough question, Abby. What do you like best and what do you like least about your job?
Ooh. I love talking to customers, or I love asking annoying questions to customers. That's my favorite part. It's variety of responses that you get, and I love when I actually hit a pain point, and that's really, really, makes me happy, because then I know that now I can help them. And on the other side, I love working with great colleagues. I get to work with some really amazing engineers. There's some crazy amazing engineers on our team, and that's another like amazing thing. Like when you're working with people who are much smarter than you, you're learning like all the time without you even knowing, thinking about it.
Yes, I like that. So what is the worst part about your job?
I think the worst part as a product officer is the fear of failure. You're constantly afraid that you will fail at something. You will build a sucky product and nobody will like it. Or, you will build a product that nobody wants to talk about. That's even worse. And you'll build a
Oh,
boring
yeah.
product. That sucks.
Yeah. Oh, I never even thought of that pressure. When when I was a pen tester, honestly, I was always worried that someone would just hack the living crap out of a product that I had said, "Oh yeah, that's safe to go," and that's like this fear I would carry.
Yes.
And as an AppSec professional, I'm always like, "Oh gosh."
Yeah.
Because even if you've advised them 25 times, like, I need you to take that flaming dumpster fire off your network. It's so scary. Please, please. You told them 25 times. And then people are like, really, Tanya, you consulted there? I'm so afraid of that happening. And it never occurred to me, yeah, like you could feel responsibility for,
Yeah.
but opinions are
Security is a
fickle.
thankless job. Security is a thankless job. It's a very hard job. So everybody who works in security, thank you. It's probably the most important field to work in today.
Yeah, it is an intense field for sure. We have another question in the chat that's really good. Do chief product officers tend to work together? So, for example, your product doesn't do the thing, but you know another product that does do it.
Uh,
Or,
I'm not sure I
like,
understand that question.
yeah. So, for instance, lots of CISOs will actually all go meet and then talk and kind of advise each other and give each other advice. And I'm part of a bunch of different security kind of groups where we talk about things. And then I'm also part of like a lot of startup things where I ask a lot of advice of other people. And do like chief product officers like kind of have meetups or talks or network and help each other?
Yes, but chief product officer is like startup founder. They are usually pretty busy, so it's kind of hard to get hold of other ones. But I
Yeah.
try, and people try, and we do have smaller networks, probably not as good as Tanya's, but we try.
Oh, more blushing from me. Thank you. I think that's a really good answer, actually, and I totally agree. Okay, so I think I already know the answer because of your previous answers, but what makes you feel the most pride at work?
Oh, yeah, that's easy. I think I I do get validation from others a lot. It makes me really happy. So when my team says I'm doing a good job, or my customers say that this product is something that they will use, it's like yes, score. That makes me super happy.
It feels really good, right? Like I made this and it helped them, and it
Yeah,
solved their problem, and they're yes. Oh,
yes, yeah.
that it. Okay, so Let's say someone's been listening to this and they're like, you know what, I want to be a chief product officer someday. What would be a first actionable step that they could try to take to move towards that, besides obviously following your account on Twitter, which is at Cloud Defense?
Yes. So I think the easiest step is, and I try to do that. Try to look at everyday products, like you use your iPhone, your vacuum cleaner, your knife, and think about ways that it can be improved, and then try to find like the next five random people that are not your mom and tell them that, hey, what if this product was like this way? Would you like it? Would that help you? You know, go through that process multiple times and see if your idea changes. Kind of learn how to build ideas and solidify ideas. That's really the training there. And then if you, like I said before, that if you can actually build a product with a team to solve somebody's pain point, even if it's something really small, even if it's solving like one person's pain point, that's a really good training. But then if your job and you really want a career in chief product officer, having such instances are really good. And then try to put yourself in positions in your company where you actually, with your idea and your involvement and your persistence, your company's product improved and customers maybe paid more money for it. That story you can take to any other company or even within your company and get the title of a product officer.
That's amazing. That's really good advice. Thank you. Okay, Abhi, I have asked all the questions that I am theoretically supposed to ask. So I want to ask one more before I let you go, because I really like asking questions. That's what it makes a good podcast host, I think. So what if someone wanted to get started with startups? They're like, I don't know where I fit. I think startups are exciting. How can I be a part of the excitement?
Yeah, startups are definitely exciting. But they're really hard. So I think it depends on what your risk taking ability is. But if you think you can take some um, risks, and if you think you have some money saved, you can maybe, in case you don't get paid or in case the startup fails, you can take that. Then it's a good thing, because the upside is very high usually in startups. In case your startup succeeds, or in case you're the first engineer at a key startup, or then the upside is very, very high. The way to start is start reading up about the beginnings of good startups and what makes a good startup. So because to either launch a good startup or to join a good startup, you need to be able to understand what makes a good startup. And there's a lot of resources. I think the best ones are, maybe read up a book called Lean Startup. A book, Essays of Paul Graham are pretty good. And you'll kind of get the vibe of like, okay, what really makes a good startup a good startup. Once you know that, then you can choose where to enter it. You can start your own, or you can join a company at a certain level that matches your risk profile.
That's very cool. What if someone wants to get started in DevSecOps? Because apparently I've decided that I don't care about the amount of time we've been on, and I just want to ask you more questions.
No, absolutely no problem. I'm glad you guys are listening. I love to blabber, so it very validating that you guys are listening. So uh, hmm.
If you want to start in DevSecOps, you probably sort of need to understand DevOps, right?
Oh wait, I have Tanya's book somewhere right there. You need to read it. It's right here.
I'll show it. I'll show it.
Yes,
I got it.
read Tanya's book. She explains all the basics of DevSecOps, and just I don't know. I think look up Tanya's videos, follow Tanya, Follow Tanya on Twitter, LinkedIn.
All
Where
the
else, Tanya?
places.
Tanya has a course. Make sure you take her course.
Yeah, I'd
She's the
like to note to
expert.
this was not a setup. I was just
No, this was not set up at all. I was actually thinking very hard for a few seconds, like, what's the best resource that I know that can tell you how to get started in DevSecOps? It is actually Tanya's blogs, and articles, and because she and I'll tell you why. Because 2 years ago, when I started in DevSecOps, I didn't know anything. I had to learn from Tanya, like that's why I actually approached her. Would you be an advisor for us? Because her tutorials, what she was saying, made sense to me. She didn't overcomplicate it for me. She started with basics and took us through like a journey. So I think you have it there.
oh, thank you, Abby.
So
There are I'm
it's
all blushing
true.
again. Thank you. So there's a few more questions in the chat. So from Anshu, who we both know,
I have no idea who
what?
Anshu Bansal is. Uh,
Yeah, we have no idea who he is.
he's
He's
he's our
definitely.
CEO.
What guidance do you have for future chief product officers or aspiring chief product officers?
Don't piss off your CEO for one. Just kidding. Um, I think future guidance is like split your time. I think something very actionable is make sure that you're noting how much time you're spending on meeting customers, how much time you're actually strategizing, and how much time you're spending communicating. It should be almost be like 75, 80% talking to customers, maybe 10, 15% strategy, and 5 to 10, 10% communicating to your team. So very heavy focus on consistently. That's your job. Like talk to customers. They should know about you. You should know about them. You should know it. You really should nail down pain points there. And it won't work the first time. Don't give up. Keep trying.
Oh, that is the best startup advice ever. It won't work the first time.
It
Keep
won't.
trying, keep going, don't give up.
If
No,
you
that's
if it works, let me know. I'll find you a VC to invest in.
I love it. Abby, thank you so much for being on the We Hack Purple podcast. You have been an amazing guest. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Anytime. Nice to meet you guys. Feel free to reach out on email, Twitter, or through Tanya. Take care.
So Abby at clouddefense.ai
Yes.
or just at Cloud Defense on Twitter. And then they're somewhere on LinkedIn too.
Perfect.
Cool. Thank you, Abby. Next time.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to the We Hack Purple podcast, where we talk to Abhi Arora about being a chief product officer. I don't know about you, but I learned a lot. Thank you to ThreadFix, powered by Denim Group, our sponsor of several months now. The We Hack Purple podcast has so much in store for you. We have a whole bunch more episodes in season 1. We are going to be taking a break partway through August, at basically the last weekend of August, until October, so that, well, I can do some stuff in my farm, but also because we want to invite a ton of new guests for season 2. We are so excited. I want to remind you to consider joining our mailing list. We have a brand new co-op student who is in charge of marketing. She's very excited to be writing amazing newsletters for you, and you can sign up at newsletter.wehackpurple.com. We have a bunch of new guests coming up in next week and the week after, and I could tell you about them, but instead I'm just going to say thank you for listening. Go check out our website, wehackpurple.com. There might be something fancy and new there for you. Good night.